Alright, so I'm gonna do a little trade recap for Thursday. Um, yeah. So how I caught low of day and how I caught this short over here and the long. Um, Basically, I mean, coming into the market, I was bullish, but like I was bearish till um this low gets souped, or I was just bearish for the first half, if that makes sense. So, hold on, where is it at? Right here. Yeah, right here. So I go, I went to the 15-minute time frame, right? So we got New York, we got Asia right here. This was the highest I made. I only like using one standard deviation, like just one leg. I don't like using like the London. I mean, I don't really use it. I don't know why, but like, I just don't use it because I don't really trade standard deviations. But I just trade I just use them as like a confluence, if that makes sense. So right here, um, I do this, put fib. I did my standard deviations from here. So since this was like the high in Asia, and basically, I drew it out from here. Let me put out the market profile so it'll be a little easier. But yeah, I don't know why the colors are like that, to be honest. But anyways, yeah. So this was the short. This was my entry over here. But basically, oh no, no, actually, I think, yeah, I took a long and a short at the same time, and then a long again. But I didn't take it. Yeah, yeah. So I did a long, and then a short, and then a long right here. So I like kind of ping ponged or whatever. So basically, this was pre-market. The long I took was pre-market. I had a limit set over here. The reason was because I pulled a fib. If you guys know what, this is what I trade. Um, Fibs is what I trade basically. And hold on, let me pull it back real quick. Is it even? Yeah, it is. All right, so basically, fibs aligned with high time frame, but like the way I use my fibs are a little bit different, and I'm not gonna go into that in this video, but I'll go into it like later on. But basically, right here, the 0.618, every fib level is used in a different type of way. I personally like to use, if it's pre-market, I'll tell you guys that later, like when to use what level and stuff like that. But for now, I'm just gonna do the trade shit. But anyways, but yeah, so 618 right here, and then this was my limit over here. This bottom tick. If I go on the lower time frame, the reason why I had it was because, I mean, I knew pre-market like Asia highs were originally the target, but I know Asia was gonna chop up. London manipulates, right? Comes to this fib level, the 0.618, and then moves higher, and then midnight was my TP, and then uh, so basic just PO3 in this case, right? So 3 minute time frame. I entered over here, right? I entered over here. Um, This is my entry. That's literally I mean, I'll tell you guys, I'll go in more detail like later on in the next videos, but this is basically the reason, and I'll tell you the reason why I caught this, why I thought this was a lower day, um, but yeah, I had a 6 point stop, and then I targeted midnight, which was like 50 points, nothing crazy, right? This was an ARR, and then took this right here, pre-market, left my limit, went to sleep. Woke up, and then this was basically PO3 over here. So the reason why I wasn't gonna take a short because I knew like we were gonna long from somewhere around here. So I had a level marked out right here, right? But the reason why I took a short is because this was like PO 930 PO3. So in this case, we know we accumulate pre-market, right? A little bit over here, kind of choppy, but still. And then you could tell like 30-minute time frame. I don't know why it's lagging. But So we tapped into the 30-minute, right? This a little the FEG over here. Then we went to the 15-minute time frame. We souped this high. We created SMT with those highs. And then yeah, so my entry, so usually when I see accumulation before pre-market, I know 9:30 open is gonna manipulate, right? Is gonna manipulate. In this case, we were moving up. We were above midnight, right? We swept liquidity over here. Yeah, I'd say liquidity, whatever. But yeah. So 3 minute, 2 minute. So we swept liquidity over here. These equal highs. We're gonna get swept. This was my TP for longs. That's what the reason why I took it. 9:30 PO3, basic shit, right? So um. Let me put my standard deviations through here, right? Alright, so yeah, I use this high right here, but um, like I said, I don't take a trade off of them. I just use them as like a low confluence or whatever. So I did that, right? I mean, you could have pulled it from here. I'm pretty sure it was like this leg over here. If you do trade standard deviations, it was like, no, was it this one? I don't know. See, that's why I don't really take a trade off of it. But basically, we tapped this, right? We tapped into a 1 minute BPR, inverse, whatever you want to call it. I call it a BPR. I seen a rejection, and then this was my entry over here, and then right here, right? Yeah, this was my entry. Go to 30-minute. Yeah, this was my entry over here. So this was basically just off of like the fact that this was 9:30 PO3, right? So these accumulation lows were my TP. So accumulation manipulation, right? Swept sell side, right? 30-minute tapped, 1 hour, 1 minute BPR, seen a rejection, right? Also, if you use divs, right? 3.5, I seen rejection from here. And then I just entered right here with I think my stop was like 10 points for this one. So it was like a 5 hour trade and I took it to this low. And then I knew we were gonna go lower, right? So I started looking for levels. How I got this low day or level right here, low day marked out. I had it marked out since like yesterday, but basically, um, this was the 30-minute low with the 30-minute CISD, which I like using. I like using 30-minute CISDs and like 1 hour CISDs. 1 hours are more probable, but in this case we didn't really have anything. So we were in a 4 hour gap, right? It was also it was also like the like close to, so most of the time what I've seen is like if we chop up like this, right? Most of the time, I'm not saying every time, I'm not gonna say 100% times, but like 90% of the time, if we have this big of a FVG right here, what we do is we usually go to like the 90% or 80% mark, we fill it up, and then we move higher and we take, the highest high or the Asia high, whatever it was, right? So in this case, that happened, and we souped this 1 hour low, 30-minute low right here, 30-minute CISD, souped it. So I had this level marked out for low of day, and which is also the 786 level, which I like using a lot. I like using the equilibrium as well, but only in certain cases. In this case, because half of the time equilibrium, if you take a trade off of equilibrium aligned with your bias or whatever, it doesn't really like it gives a reaction off of it. You could scalp and stuff, but I personally don't prefer taking a trade off of equilibrium. And yeah, so I mean, this would have been another level, but in this case, I kind of knew that there's a 30-minute CISD and it's gonna wick it out, and this most likely is gonna be played out. In this case, that happened, and then also, like I said, the 4 hour, right? 90%, 80% of the this BISI. So that happened, and then let me play it out real quick. And so shorts were still playing, and then look, level got tapped right here. And also, this was more of a confluence because let me see. Wait, was it the 1 hour? No, anyways, I was looking at something else. But yeah. So right here, instant reaction. I mean, if you wanted to take a trade, this low rejection block would have been your entry, right? This entry over here, like you could have just simply left your limit because most of the times, this is like A plus for me at least. This is how I don't know, I just kind of like, using this level, these three levels over here. So, but you just gotta know when to use what level. I'll go into that in another video, but in this case right here, and then target, this is the low day, 4 hour FVG. Targets were Asia highs, so like right here. And then if I wanted to put a limit, I usually do 10-point stops, right? And I mean, obviously, if you wanted to project some standard deviations, you could have done some like, I mean, I'm not sure how to do it, but in this case, I mean, this was like two and a half, right? This was two and a half, and then if you look at the whole Asia's range, right, this was like around one and a half type area, which I like a lot for rejections. Like right here, look. And then, you could have done a lot of manipulation, like you could have done the whole thing in the 15 minute, or the 30 minute I'm at. You could have done like up till this low, and I'm pretty sure it was -2. Yeah, it was -2 right here. Could have done this. Um, you could have done, so this was like basically, I kind of just knew that there was going to be a standard deviation over here, so I just went off of that basically. But yeah, I mean, last leg of London, I'm not sure how to use that, but I'm assuming that would be this, right? If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe this, I'm not sure. Anyways, yeah, I don't really use last leg of London, but yeah, so this would have been your trade idea, um, right here. And if you missed this entry and you wanted some more confluence, you could have entered at the CISD, the 1 minute CISD right here. Just put a limit, right, with the, I don't know, like this 15-point stop or some shit, or like a stops right here. I don't know, it's up to you, but yeah, this basically goes to TP. Took a little while, but it did go to TP eventually. Move TP hit. So that was the trade basically, and I'll be posting more videos on how to use fibs and stuff, because this is literally all I trade. I don't trade anything else. There's different ways that you use fibs. Um, but this is just like kind of an example, how I would use them personally. But I mean, a lot of people ask me like, why didn't you use this whole range, right? I mean, this me personally, I don't really, I use the nearest like the lowest that would make sense. So in this case, we had a 4 hour FEG, right? So I would use this low, right? This low was a protected low that if we would have swept this, then it was common sense to come for these lows over here and swept this or sweep this or come for previous low. But in this case, we had a 4 hour FVG. If there's an imbalance, I pull my fib to the nearest low inside of an imbalance, if that makes sense. Lower time frame. So 4 hour FVG, go to 15 minute or any minutes, right? Any like time frame. This low would be the protected low over here. Why? Because it's inside of a FVG. If it breaks out, um, then it's like it's most likely. I'm not gonna say 100% again, but it's most likely to come for previous day's low if that happens. If a nearest fib level breaks out and closes, has like a body close, and right, like in this case, hold on, wait, let me just show you an example. So the protected fib level is this right here, right? So 0.786. If a body closes below it, or it can wick it out. I mean, this wasn't gonna wick out because we had a 15-minute soup and a 15-minute FPG unfilled. So this wasn't gonna soup like it wasn't gonna get like it was gonna get respected. I just kind of knew, right? So CISD, 15-minute FPG, 4-hour FPG, standard deviations, right? -2, 2.5 reversal. -4 max expansion, but in this case, -4 would have just if we would have tapped this, we're most likely to go to the fourth deviation or the third deviation of the Asia's range. So in this case, over here, we would have swept this, and this would have been low day. But anyways, um, yeah. So this was like a yeah. I kind of yapped too much, but anyways, this was basically the trade, and I'll be going more into like the fibs and stuff, cause I know a lot of people like they've been talking about how I use them, and this is like one of the examples that I used. And you can easily catch like low days, high days, and stuff like that aligned with your bias with this. But obviously, like if you had a bearish bias, right, the whole day, like if you were to use bearish bias, like if you were to use like fib somewhere over here, like I mean, it probably would have cooked for a little bit, like a little bit, but eventually, like you would have got stopped out or it wouldn't have worked. And people would like tell me like, oh, the fib's not working, stuff like that. But it's just like I think it just kind of just depends on how you use them, aligned with your bias. Your bias has to be right. But yeah. Anyways, yeah, this was the little trade recap. So this is what I'm trying to like. Basically, you could literally just ping pong off of using fibs. You don't need anything else. You don't need all that other, complicated shit. But yeah, I'll see you guys. on